Aatrox, Irelia, Akali, and if we start seeing some more tanks coming back in the top lane, I think that Camille and Fiora could be very, very strong, especially in solo queue. And I said that in my one-trick video. It's panning out very similar to how I predicted it. They are nerfing Aatrox. They nerfed Urgot a little bit. They're nerfing Akali and Irelia. I said Fiora and Camille will probably rise up a little bit in top lane after that happens. They're already good. We'll see how that pans out. But as far as like the jungle is concerned, I don't know a lot about this. I don't jungle Camille. I've heard that it's really hard and that you can have a very dangerous clear on your first couple of clears especially. So we'll see. My instinct is that she's going to take a lot more damage off of this. Now you still deal damage to minions and monsters. It just doesn't stun them. But you're going to take a lot of extra hits from raptors and golems. You're not going to be able to stun the Scuttle Crab anymore. So Scuttle's not going to take that extra damage. So I'm not sure exactly how hard this is going to affect her clear. They also nerfed the jungle experience a little while ago. They also nerfed Tiamat a little while ago, which is something that she needs to clear. So there's been a lot of nerfs in jungle Camille. I haven't even seen her that much, you know, in mid-platinum level play. So she's not like pick or ban in pro play either. Like she's good in pro play, but there are a lot of other options. So I don't know. This is pretty intense. I think that they could have just like made her hookshot deal like less damage or something. Maybe it deals like 20% less damage to monsters. But to take away the stun completely seems kind of rough. So I think this might knock her out of the jungle, but she'll still be pretty good in the solo lane. Obviously, this is going to have virtually no repercussions in solo lanes most of the time. Okay. I guess if you go in for a trade with your E, maybe the minions don't hit you 1 or 2 extra times because of the stun, so that could matter, but by and large, it's mostly for jungle Camille. I think that'll be the death of jungle Camille, but maybe not. We'll see. I just feel like there's going to be other options now. Like Lee Sin's going to move up a lot in priority off of this, and a lot of other early game sort of aggression, highly mobile champs. Okay, Cassiopeia. This is a massive nerf to Cassiopeia as well. They are coming in hard with these nerfs on these like top-end champions. Noxious Blast at later levels. This is what you max first, going down 40 damage. That's pretty massive. They are increasing the ratio by 0.9, but you're going to have 400 AP before you even break even from where you used to be in terms of baseline damage there. So that's obviously not going to happen in most games, or not until very, very late in the game. Miasma, they are nerfing this a ton too, so now it's going to be 110 mana. So they're really hitting that mana cost hard, and the damage per second is like falling off a cliff. Now, most people don't sit in the Miasma the whole time, but they'll definitely take a few ticks, right? So even if they take like 3 ticks out of this, that's still going to be minus 60 damage at the top end. So it could be up to minus 100 damage. Right, so that's a lot of damage off for W, a lot of damage off for Q. Now, she can still spam her E a lot. She could go back to E spam, and this wouldn't matter that much if she maxes E first and then maxes Q second and then W last. Then it may not matter that much, but that would mean she'd have to go back to at least 1 big mana item. She'd have to go back to tier probably, and she might have to go back to like Rod tier, which would hurt her aggression in the early game a lot. It would make her more of a scaling champion instead of a lane bully again. So we'll see if it's worth it. I mean, at level 3, you're losing 20 damage on that Q. I guess if you have 100 AP, you know, you're losing 10 damage on the Q. But she already does a lot of damage. I mean, she's really overpowered right now, so we'll see. I think she'll still put out quite a bit of damage because most of your damage does come from your E later on in the game. You know, you're only going to be casting your Q a few times. Like, every Q that you cast, you're going to be casting, like, 3 E's probably. At least. So, I don't know. The Miasma, the damage probably doesn't matter that much. It all adds up, though. And she got nerfed last patch, too, I think. And her mana cost on her Q went up a little bit in the last couple of patches, so I think she'll definitely fall down a little bit, but I expect her to still be pretty strong. I think she was at, like, somewhere 51, 52%. She's at 51, roughly, so I think she'll still be viable, especially in a tank meta. She's very good at shredding tanks. but I don't know if you can blind pick her anymore. We'll see. She's probably still, like, viable, but definitely weaker. Irelia, I think this is just, like... I mean, they're writing up a novel here for Irelia. I don't know why they've had to make, like, 50 different changes to her. Like, it's just, like, nerf the mobility on the Q. Just have a delay of, like, 3 seconds on it. Or something like that. I don't know. I didn't think that she needed to have, like, 20 changes over the last 5 patches or whatever, but I think this is probably going to be really, really bad for her. So what they're doing is they're doing per stat. It's giving you bonus attack speed, but I don't think it's giving you any on-hit damage. So she's just basically going to have a lot of attack speed. So 8 to 10 to 12%, and then at max levels you get this, but you no longer get that on-hit... Wait. Okay, if you're at max stacks now, you gain 15 to 66 on-hit damage. So the per stack used to be on-hit. Now the per stack is attack speed. So now it does give you more on-hit. Okay, let's see. 0.25 bonus attack damage is on-hit. This is 0.04 bonus attack damage, but you used to get 4 stacks of this. That'd be 0.16. So it's a higher damage ratio, higher base damage for the on-hit. Used to go up to 50% attack speed. Now it 30, 40, 50. Now it goes 40, 50, 60. But it takes 5 stacks to reach max. Okay, so when you get to max stacks, it looks like it is actually stronger. But you have to get there first. So it's going to take you 25% more time to get your stacks up. But you are stronger when you get it. So worse in team fights when you don't have minions to stack it up on. Potentially stronger in laning phase.
An enemy has been slain.
I think. It's a lot of changes. I think it's stronger if you're able to get all the stacks, but the question is, can you do it? Remember, it doesn't break shields anymore, which hurts her matchup dramatically against things like Victor or Urgot or just a lot of these other champions that are going to have shields top lane. Riven. So that's going to be rough. Blade Surge, increasing the damage. I think it was really hard for her to wave clear. This should still be kind of hard to wave clear a lot of the time. And now it doesn't reduce magic damage. This is going to make her a lot worse in magic matchups. So against, you know, Rumble top, Victor top, Vlad top. A lot of bad matchups top now in terms of magic damage. So keep that in mind. And definitely mid lane. I think this would probably be the end of mid lane. Because she's no longer going to be able to block huge bursts of damage from Zoe or huge bursts of damage from just anybody. Syndra, Fizz, all of these things. She has no magic protection against them now. So I think this is going to run her out of mid lane for sure. But you still might see her top lane some. We'll see. It's been pretty rough. It's been pretty rough. I think that she could still be viable top lane potentially, but there are probably better choices. Camille, Fiora, I think are going to be stronger. Even Riven, if you're very good on Riven. Riven's been gaining a lot of power lately. Okay. Now I don't like how they're wording this at all. So they're talking about, and they keep like italicizing it. With Phantom Dancer, instead the 3, so their game will feel better. League of Legends is not about feeling when you are coming up with power numbers. I'm not just like, oh, this champion feels powerful. It's like, no, either it is or it isn't. Like, you can quantify it. It's numerical to a certain extent. Like, some kits can feel good in terms of, like, the kit feeling good. Like, oh, I like this move. Or, oh, the Recon W got completely gutted last patch. It's way worse than I thought it was going to be. That feels bad. But when you're talking about stats, there's not really a feeling to stats. It's like, either it's a good stat or it's a bad stat. Either it's stronger or it's weaker. There's no feeling there. That's just math on items for the most part. So, I mean, like, different power levels of power spike can be good, but I don't like how they're couching this as, like, we want something net neutral. We think, because like the implication here is that AD carries are really strong, but people just don't feel like they're strong. That it's something with the perception that's off, right? That it's just like players are too dumb to figure out that like AD carries are good. Like, it's just, oh, did you close the door, Rory? That it's just like a hunch, right? Well, people just don't get it. They just don't feel good when they play AD carry. It's like, no, numerically they are underpowered. AD carries have been bad for the most part for the last 6 months. Now, recently there has been a little bit of a resurgence. You know, some champions like Lucian are really, really strong. Vayne, after some changes to Vayne, and then Ezreal, those like can be strong. Okay, they take time to power up. Lucian doesn't. Lucian's just overpowered. But like Ezreal and Vayne take time to power up, but they can be good. But by and large, most AD carries, it doesn't matter how you feel. They've been awful. You know, your Jinxes, your Tristanas, all that stuff is just not good. And it's not about a feeling. It's about numerical power. Isn't that right, Rory? What are you saying? No eating that stuff, Rory. Honey, can you... Rory wandered in here and closed the door. She's trying to get at like this leftover sandwich that I have that I didn't move away from lunch earlier. Yeah, it's a camera. That's right, Rory. But yeah, I just don't like how they worded that, because the understanding is that like it hasn't been a problem. It's just people's perception has been a problem and not the numbers. It's like, no, bro, the numbers have been a problem. But anyway, so they are doing some stuff that'll help, but I don't think it's going to help in the way that people are expecting it will help. I don't think it's magically going to bring back all the AD carries. You know, we'll see. But I don't think it's going to be that good. Can I have this? Okay, well, you can play with the wrappers. There you go. Good job. So we'll see. I just don't like how there's keep saying feel over and over again here, and even italicizing it, because it's not about feelings. It's about like stats and power. So anyways, I'm hopping off my soapbox. But yeah, I just don't like, because it just feels patronizing. Like, oh, you guys are feeling bad. It's like, no, they're bad, and that directly affects support. So anyways, so they're bringing back Cloak of Agility. Okay, good. And they've decided that crit is a 40% number again, which I think has always been a good round number for crit. They are doing some stat adjustments here that will help out with that, and we'll break it all down. We'll tell you what's good, what's bad, what's feeling, and what's actually making like real adjustment. Okay, Infinity Edge, I believe in many circumstances, it's going to be stronger at single item. In most cases, it's going to be weaker at 2 items. Potentially, like, there might be some circumstances where it's like neutral at 2 items and it's worse at 3 crit items than it used to be. And by used to be, I mean with like definitely worse than the old school like 250% crit, obviously. But I'm talking about the most recent one, the 10% conversion of true damage and the double crit. Okay? And one of the main reasons for this is when you have a single item, you just rush Infinity Edge, it has 25% crit, it functions, it's an actual item. The old Infinity Edge did nothing because it just doubled your crit. And so it was terrible to rush, you should never do it. But now, if you get to 2 items, so if you go like Infinity Edge plus Rapid Fire Cannon, you only have 50% crit. Versus with the old build, you would have 60% crit because Rapid Fire used to be 30%. And it went up to 60% crit, so you're losing 10% crit right now, which is about 400 gold value. So you're just straight losing that 400 gold. Now, they are adding in 80 attack damage, which is a value of 350 gold. So there's that. So I would say at 2 items, it's about equal because they're adding on 10 AD. It's pretty close. You know, you're losing 400 gold value on the crit, but you're gaining 350 on the attack damage, and in many cases against a target between 50 and 100 armor, then the extra 25% crit damage is going to be more valuable than the 10% critical strike damage as true damage. So yeah, it's better at 1 item. It's roughly neutral at 2 items, but at 3 items, it's way worse. Because at 3 items, then you're only going to get 75% crit because everything's 25% crit now. Whereas with the old one, you'd get 120% crit, which is 100%, right? So you'd be losing 25% crit value, which is a lot. That's like 1,000 gold value. So you're losing 1,000 gold value on the item at 3 items from where it used to be, and nothing's going to make up for that at this point. So Infinity Edge is way weaker at 3 items. If you go Infinity plus Rapid Fire Cannon plus Static Shiv is weaker than before if you went those same items. Okay. So, and here's a little bit of math on that I did, just kind of looking at this. And I did this before in my 80 carry preview video from a few weeks ago when they first mentioned these changes. It used to only incorporate 70 AD, but I just want to talk about like what's the difference in these passes, because it's easy to calculate up the AD. So if we look at Infinity Edge, you can see the value here. It's about 112% gold efficient, not including the 225% crit strike. But what's the difference between this ability, the 225% crit, versus the 10% conversion to true damage? Well, let's look at it. Okay. So with the old version, if you had, if you were doing 200 damage on an auto attack, you got a crit with the new Infinity Edge, the 225%, it would do a 450 damage crit. That would be all physical damage. Versus the old Infinity Edge, if you had 200 and you crit, you would do 360 total AD and 40 true damage. So it would still only be 400 total damage, but 40 of it would be true damage total. So how valuable is that true damage? Well, against a 100 armor target, which is a light tank, so someone, maybe a support who's going to have like maybe 1 armor item, a light armor item, maybe like a Knight's Vow or something like that, plus their base armor, it's going to be around 100 armor, maybe a little bit more. Then it would be, you would do 225 flat damage with the new Infinity Edge, and with the true damage, you would do 220 flat damage. So very, very similar, just 5 more damage on the Infinity Edge. With 50 armor, though, so when you're going towards a squishier target, now this is going to be like an assassin, an AD carry, just someone who builds no armor, except maybe a little bit from runes, and they just have their base armor that they're working off of. So pretty much like no armor. Even Ninja Tabby gets you to like 80 armor in a lot of circumstances. So if there's no armor, then the crit's going to do 297 damage versus 278 off of the true damage. So the lower the armor goes, the less valuable the true damage is. But if someone had more armor, so if someone had 200 armor, I didn't add in 200 armor, but we could go ahead and add it up here real quick. So 200 armor. She wants Elmo, dear. Then it would be 100 divided by 200, so no, 100 divided by 300. Okay, so it's going to be blocking 63% of the damage. So you're going to be taking 33, so that would be 450 times 0.33. You would only be dealing 149 damage off this one. Versus 360 times 0.33 equals 119 plus 40, 159. Okay. So if it's 200 armor, if it's a big tank, then the old Infinity Edge was actually better at dealing with that because of the true damage. Okay, so it's basically like if you're against squishies, if it's under 100 armor, then the new Infinity Edge is going to be better. If it's over 100 armor, then, you know, approaching probably 120 armor or so, then the old Infinity Edge is going to be better. Strictly in terms of 10% crit versus 25% extra crit bonus. Remember, you get a ton of extra crit off of the old Infinity Edge at 3 items. You get that 25% extra crit from what you would get these days. So, what does this mean? It's kind of a wash most of the time. Unless there's a champion that's going to 100% rush Infinity Edge, which is still, on a lot of champions, going to be pretty weak, then it's not really that much better. You know, because you're going to be getting it second item anyways. So if you go for, like, BF Sword into Static Shiv into Infinity Edge, you're not really gaining that much. It's net neutral. And then when you get your third item, when you get your Rapid Fire Cannon, it's actually weaker. And so this is not really going to help the curve on most AD carries. Now, you might be wondering, well, what was it before? When it used to be plus 250% crit, then you would get 500 damage, right? So 200 damage would turn into 500, and these numbers would look a lot more impressive, right? This would be, you know, up into the 300s. You'd probably be hitting them for like 350, 360 versus 278. So you'd be hitting them for a lot more, especially squishy targets. They don't want to bring that back. I don't really see that. I think it was fine. I think the major problem back then was Ardent Sensor. They've nerfed Ardent Sensor a ton. I think that it was certain runes, like Warlord's Bloodlust, and how that interacted with some of those Energizer items. All of that's been nerfed, though. A lot of the individual AD carries that were too strong back then have been nerfed, like Caitlyn, like Tristana. They've both been nerfed. Ardent Sensor's been nerfed. Janna's been nerfed into the dirt. Warlord's Bloodlust has been nerfed with Fleet Footwork. Like, there's the 80 carries of 2017 have been nerfed about 50 times. So I think if they just gave them back 250% crit, it would be fine in this environment, and that would actually make it like objectively more powerful, not feeling good. It's not going to be feeling good. It's going to be feeling about the same most of the time in these games. But anyways, marginally better. It is a better rush item. There will be some champions that will rush this instead of and it's only because they're basically deleting Stormrazor from the game, which we'll talk about here in a second. So some champions might have to rush this if they have certain breakpoints. Like Kai'Sa might have to rush this just so she can get an 80 AD item and get her Q evolve first. So she might end up rushing this and then doing like a Hurricane build or something out of that, like Infinity Edge and a Hurricane off Kai'Sa. So we'll just have to see. Kai'Sa's kind of a special case because she needs to get to 100 AD for that Q evolve. And they're nerfing the AD on all of the items. But anyways, we'll go into that a lot more in my 80 carry tier list video, so be sure to check that out. I'll go through what I think will be all of the new cool builds. I'll try to come up with that over the next couple of days, but we won't go too far into that hole because I don't want this video to take forever, and there's a lot of stuff going on here. But anyways, so 1 item, better. 2 items, neutral. 3 items, worse. That's what you need to know about Infinity Edge. Okay. Essence Reaver, bad.